want to get started to give our visiting speaker as much time as possible. And so we have Laurie Gibbons from Print Press and Printmaking introducing our visiting speaker. So I'll turn it over to Laurie. Thanks.
Well, thank you, James, and thank you to all of Core Design for having us here. I'm really excited to hear this lecture by Linda Ridgway, who's a visiting artist at CVAD this semester. She comes to us with a background in both printmaking but also sculpture. So her primary training is in printmaking. She received a BFA from the Louisville School of Art in Kentucky, which is now the University of Louisville in Kentucky. She received her MFA from Tulane in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, and has been working in both paper, works on paper, print, drawing, and sculpture ever since then. Since she moved to Dallas, she maintains a drawing studio in Dallas, a sculpture studio in Crowley, Texas, and she also teaches at Cedar Valley College in Lancaster. Despite having all of this going on, she manages to take on and succeed many important projects. So some of the current examples include a commission at the Temple Emmanuel in Dallas. For those of you who wish to see that, it's the largest synagogue in Texas, I believe, and they'll be having an opening in May if you're a part of that community. Currently, one that you can see that's open to the public is the With or Without exhibition, which is at the Tally Dunn Gallery, which is in the Knox-Henderson district in Dallas. It's a beautiful gallery space, and I haven't gotten to see the show yet. I'm going to be doing it right after Linda and I conclude the residency at Print. So it's sure to be a really exciting exhibition and a beautiful space. And it's where you can see more of her actual work after the presentation. So in addition to this presentation that she's about to give, one of the reasons that she's on campus is to collaborate with a master printer at Print Press. This is our website. It stands for Print Research Institute of North Texas. But with that long title aside, what it's about is facilitating collaborative printmaking. And what I mean by that is we bring together distinguished artists as well as master printers, because when you work together, especially with student assistants, you can achieve more than what you can do alone. It expands your facilities in so many different ways. She's going to give us a lot more information about that. You can see what's happening at Print Press this Thursday, so tomorrow, from 4 to 6 p.m. we'll be having an open house where you can meet Linda Ridgway once again in the space. You can talk with Catherine Brimberry, who's the master printer and who's the founder of Flatbed Press in Austin. She has a distinguished long career of 25 years or more operating the press.
Absolutely.
And she's been working with Linda since 1999, almost annually. So it's been very fulfilling to watch them work together. Print press can be a little challenging to find on our campus, so I wanted to give you some sense of where we're at in the hopes that you'll drop by. Right now, you are in this building, Sage Hall. And for reference, to get your bearings, this is the art building. And some of you may be in core drawing classes. This is Hickory Hall right here. So if that gives you a sense of where you're at in space, Print Press is up here. And the thing you might know that building best for is Cora Stafford Gallery. Some of you may have been to openings there already. Okay, so I hope you can join us tomorrow from 4 to 6 p.m. and see what we've been working on at Print. And in the meantime, I want to turn it over to Linda Ridgway. So please welcome her.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Step on all this wire.
Here we go. Say hello.
Hello.
There we go.
Big voice. Is that okay? Does that sound all right, or is that too high, guys? Sounds high. Am I okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm really glad. Let me see if I can get it to go. There we go. I'm really glad you're here, and thank you for coming to look at my work. I know it's part of your class structure, but I hope that you'll find it interesting as well. I'm going to start with some pieces that I have been casting bronze and working in bronze since 1987. And I went to school at a time when sculpture was discouraged for female students. But I think being the daughter of a carpenter and wanting to fix things and saw wood and do all those kind of things, they couldn't keep me out. And so at Tulane University was when I really started working with sculpture. But in conjunction with that, I still loved printmaking. This piece right here is called May 1st. It floats on the wall. This is kind of deceptive. It is a piece of found crochet that I found, and it was, the collector that bought it, we talked about it, and to me it's kind of a crown. And May 1st is the crowning of the Virgin. I am Catholic, and there's a lot of overtones in that, but it's not so much that it will bother you. But anyhow, this is one of the first pieces that I put very high on the wall, and I'm going to go some more. And then this piece here, I do things with these pieces here, these flower pieces were, someone gave me a book on the flower arrangement of Ikebana. And it was a book that was developed in 1947. If you don't know what Ikebana is, it's a Japanese form of floral arrangement that helps you decide what is beautiful and how to make beauty. And I got really intrigued with the idea that beauty could be formalized, because I think beauty is found. It's not always created, it's just there. But anyhow, and this was the first piece that I had put text with. This piece, and this is to the right is the close-up of this. This is all cast bronze. And I basically take everything apart from a real flower, and then I cast it all in individual pieces. And then I have all the little pieces together, and I have them all keyed up in little codes. I'm a manic person, and I put them all back together again. It's kind of like taking a Lego set, throwing it in the air, coming back, and trying to replace it, put it back together. But this piece here is called Three Lines Represent Development. And the collector who purchased this is a wonderful collector of mine, Nancy and Tim Hanley, and I took the text from the book in which it said one line is symbolic, 2 lines are harmony, and that's the 3rd line represents development. And that's what it was about, the 3 lines of friends. In other words, the instructions on how to make something beautiful. This is a show that I had in New York at the Charles Coles Gallery. And this was my first New York show, yay! Tried real hard. This whole show was called While. And the piece right there to your right is this one. And you can see that it is crocheted text, but it's all bronze. I was working with a friend of mine who could develop any words I wanted. And this comes from the book of A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. And what I did, I was very infatuated with that book. And I read the book at age 45, and I hope you guys read it before then, because it's a great book. And it talks about how we all need a creative space, male or female, and what kind of space we need, and how the artist needs to be, and in a sense, given that opportunity. And this piece was called But for a While. And it has that kind of, we're here for a short time. This first word is the first word of the text is but, and then the last word of the text is while. And I love this piece because she started off saying an argument, but, and while, continuation. And so it's like, and I love that piece right there. I like all the strings and all the pulls, and to try to make that in bronze is very difficult. This is a piece called Gathered Beauty. It's roses, and I play a lot with roses because roses are, in a sense, the ideal beauty form, right? Are they? I don't know, You still give roses to each other, and But it's also, roses are wonderful because they have that other side of the life, the thorny side. And so not only beauty can be a thorny situation. These are gathered together, and this was the first piece that I actually used printmaker's ink on the patina. And there again, I'm combining the idea of printmaking and sculpture together. I actually did do you know what a patina is? Does everybody understand what a patina is? I'm going to explain it. Patina means that you can chemically change. In bronze comes out and it looks like kind of a coppery color. You all know what copper looks like. It kind of has that, because bronze is about 90% copper. And so it has this kind of copper look. And it's, kind of sweet and soft, tan. I don't know what the color would be, but you got the effect. And so then you take chemicals and you apply the chemicals after you've sandblasted the metal so it's open and ready to receive the chemicals. You put the chemicals on it, and I do that with a torch. I paint it on. So in essence, when I make sculpture, I'm incorporating drawing, design, painting, printmaking. I'm doing it all. So when someone says it's not in your major to take that, just go do it all. Because somewhere along the line, you're going to need it. So anyhow, this piece right here I put what they call a hot gesso patina on it, and that is where you change the color. I actually used a liquid gesso with a hot torch, and you kind of slowly build it up, with colors. And then I took printmaker's ink, and I used a formula that they used during the Renaissance for a combination of overlays of transparencies, where I used different dryers and oils, and then printmaking ink, and then rubbing it back, so I combine things. But then this is another one of those Ikebana arrangements, and this is called the beauty of an arrangement or something, I can't quite remember. This one is called Desire, and this is a thorny mock orange branch that I found out in the Foundry area. I do my work with Harry Gefford out in Crowley, Texas, which is west of Fort Worth. I have a studio out there. And this is growing on in this kind of wilderness area. This is a mock orange thorny tree. And I cast it all, and then I decided that I wanted to have some leaves on it. And those are actual silk leaves on there. This is a piece that I did at the show for the New York show. And the frontal piece right there is a piece called Heirloom. You'll see it in some other shots here. And in the back are my photographic drawings. I oftentimes take photographs of my sculpture as they're going. Then I take them to a wonderful place called Expert Imaging in Dallas. Anybody want to use them? And they take my images and then they blow them up for me. And I want them to be grainy and fuzzy and bad photographs so that I can go back and draw on top of them. So basically, I treat these like I treat some of my other drawings. This is a close-up of the crocheted tablecloth. It has a cut piece out of it. And I actually did this piece. I didn't realize I was doing it at the time, and that's what art's about. You don't often know if you are, when you make something, sometimes years later you figure out why you made it. Does that make sense? You know, you got this idea and you want to do it. Well, I cut a piece out of it just to do the test. After I did the test and realized that I liked the piece cut out, and my father had recently died, and I realized the tablecloth, the piece that was cut out was him. And it was neat, you know. So this is a conversation I had with my partner, and he said, all this pink is weak. And I said, is blue strong? So I decided that needed to be crocheted. So we crocheted and put it on. And the lady that bought this, she loved it, and she hangs it over her bed with her husband on one side and her on the other. What do y'all think? Isn't that great? I loved it. This piece here represents, this piece is called The Husband. And you know how they always putting a rose on the pillow, right? And it, you know, in the Scottish flag, there is the rose and the rose and the thistle. This is a thistle. It's a Texas thistle, though, which I really love. I got it off of in a field, and I actually cast this. The pillow that it's sitting on is a bronze pillow that I made, okay? And I took a real pillow and did a mold of it, and then made a wax of it, and then made this pillow, right? But then it wasn't soft enough. It looked like metal, and I went, ugh, I don't like that. It's got to look soft because I got this tough thistle on top, right? Okay. Well, I had a friend of mine make a silk covering for it. And basically, as soon as I put that silk covering on that, and there's actually 2 holes in the top of the pillow that go through the covering, and so it doesn't move, and so it sits on top and actually is geared in there, so you can't take the thistle, but you can pick it up, remove it, and change the covering, which I made 2 pillowcases so that they could change it when they need to launder it. I want to think of everything, like that. And so anyhow, I like this piece. I was doing all these pillow pieces, and then I started doing some things about, this is my male-female things, like the pink and the blue, and guilt or guiltless. You can decide which one you are. The name of this piece is called Choose Your Poison. And no matter what you do, it is a poison. Discover that. This piece was about my young granddaughter, and she had just been born, and this is called She, and She. And it's got this, and I went and had the ribbon. It's a continuous ribbon. It's one continuous line. There's no break in it because that's a circle of life, no break for the child. In other words, I didn't want the child, an extension of a long life is what it's about. And then She, and She comes from a poet named and writer, Ann Ryder, I believe is her name. And my son gave me the book. I love when people give me things. They give me things and I kind of get ideas from them. This is a piece, I also grew up on a farm and planted things and did all this stuff. And I started deciding to make bronze, what I called vegetation. This is Georgia kale. And the only reason I chose the Georgia kale was because it was nice and thick and I knew it would cast. And I liked the leafiness of it. And here's a close-up of it. I geared a way to put it on the wall so that it would float. And I didn't want you to see how I put it on the wall. And I loved it when it was at the opening. People were going like this, and they're looking around, and they're going like, how should I get that on there, And putting the root. And again, this is the same patina with the ink and the white gesso. I love that because it's like a silver. It's silvery, it casts great shadows. I always say that if the piece on the wall, and I think I keep putting things on the wall because basically I'm still a printmaker, a person who likes to draw. I only do sculpture in the round not very often, I should say that. I just don't do it I don't think that way. And I'd like you to realize that sculpture doesn't have to be in the round, and it doesn't have to be massive. It can be, thousands of little things and making a massive statement. This piece right here is a crocheted piece that I did for a friend who was leaving a gallery. And the part that I loved the most, it was one of the first that I let the text become that. And I think the shadow is more important. And so this brings in that other aspect of sculpture that you don't often think about. Sculpture, in a sense, is like theater. And so you have to understand lighting. And this is something that I had, over the years, had to figure out. I didn't understand it first. I had a wonderful friend who is not here anymore. He's up to the art heaven. And he said to me, this was my first show at the Gerald Peters Gallery in Dallas years ago, in 90-something or other. And he said to me, you did this great show, Linda, but your lighting was terrible. And I went, I love it when other artists tell you this. It's good because sometimes people are too nice. You know, oh, that's great. You know, and you know, and that's not going to help you. You know, you want to know. But he was so wonderful, and he was a very mature, brilliant Greek painter. I mean, he was a fabulous man. And he said to me, "You've got to understand lighting. You've got to do the lighting. You can't let other people do your lighting. That's part of your finish. That's like the apostrophe on the synth. You know, you've got to finish it." So he made me aware of this, and when I started becoming aware of it, I started using lighting as the balance and the completion of my forms in the round. Do you see? I don't need it in the round because the lights make it go in the round. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, I'm moving on. All right, this right here, this is a show at the Tally Dunn Gallery, which I hope you go see. I really want you to go. I mean, you know, I think it's one of the best galleries in Dallas. And right now, when I first moved to Dallas in the 70s, there were very few galleries, and we are at a kind of bloom of galleries now. You know, Chris Worley and Holly Johnson and Conduit, and which many of the faculty here show, and all of those galleries, Tally Dunn. And there's so much to go see. You get free wine, go, you'll enjoy. And you get to see art, and you get to see this community that is wonderful. This space right here, you can see it's a really big space, and I have trouble, the space I'm in right now, they have it divided in two spaces. I'm in the smaller spaces for the show that I hope you go see with or without. But this is the big space, and you can see on the wall my little shelves for my hand pillows. I'll go closer to this. And this is a crochet dress that I found at a Neiman Marcus rack or something, one of those things. And I found it was a size 12. And my friend who does crochet, we converted it to a size 6. And this is called the Perfect 6. This is about the ideal of the woman. So think about it. And I just recently sold this, but I had it for a long time. And the whole thing about this is all the flowers and everything were put on afterwards. In other words, we made this piece, and then I actually had all the flowers crocheted. Then I cast those separately, then silver soldered all the flowers on. So, and the thing about it is, are we out of time? Okay. Then I saw her hand. I went, oh, I got to quit. So right here, the piece right here at the bottom. Let me see if I can make that thing work. Where is it? Aha. See these little flowers down here at the bottom, guys, right there? Those are what we call Irish roses, and these are daisies. Yeah, I'm just a flower child. So. Moving along. There's another image of it. It hung for me. In other words, I could wear it. But the original hanging was based on Emily Dickinson's height. And I'm the same height as Emily Dickinson. I looked it up. And it's about Emily and me, too. Then these are some drawings that I actually started at Flatbed. This dress. These are all about Macbeth and the Three Witches, okay? And this is the same dress, but turned in different configurations. We printed it. They're about 4 foot by 8 foot, so they're big, to give you a sense of scale. I printed them with what I call ghost images, which you'll see if you come over to the print thing. You'll see my ghost images. And then I go back in and I draw like a maniac. And this one's dancing. Don't you like her? Can, you know. At the same show, I had this piece right here. And again, this is about gathered beauty. But you see, the bundle is no longer a bundle. I let go. And that's what artists have to learn to do, is let go. That's the hardest part. We want to control everything. How you see it, what you do. This is a crochet line that I at the same time printed with Catherine. And this is I dwell in a lonely house I know. Now, these are what I call first lines. These are from Robert Frost. This is from his poem, Ghost House. And believe it or not, poetry is how I start my work. If I'm stuck, and I sit in my studio and I just start reading poetry. And what poetry does for me, and it might do that for you, is that it helps you to float. Art is about floating. and removing, the need to go, call your friends or do everything. You just art kind of suspends you. And that suspension is where you create. And that's what, as an artist, when I read this poem, it's a beautiful poem. It's not about loss, it's about memory. And my work is about memory. It's about memory of my children, my grandchildren, my friends, my family, the whole thing. It's all in there. At the same time, after I did the crochet and I printed it with Catherine and then I drew on that, then I did this. This is the I Dwell, and then I just twisted up and made it into bronze. And I do that all the time. And I'm going to do that with the two my twin girls, I'm calling them. I've got these two little dresses, if you come over and see them. They're really tiny, 1950s kind of dresses. I call them, the label on them is Prissy Miss or something. Wasn't that what it was? Or Prissy Miss. And anyhow, it was so cool because they're dancing and they're moving and they're doing all this stuff. And then these are the hand pillows. And I think I decided that the writers and the poets that I knew should rest a little bit. So I made small little hand pillows. This one is for Mary Oliver, another poet that I love. And in that, I actually took the poem, had it put on a piece of silk, and I had the guys at Expert Imaging do that. And so they put it on silk for me, and then I stuffed the pillow with the poem. And the poem is Redbird, and it's a beautiful poem by her. And my friend Teresa Rafidi, who does all my photography, I'm going to advertise for her, this right here, she found that little spot. And I love that because, it is about how we construct. This was a piece for Robert Frost. This is a boy's will. And A Boy's Will is basically about my youngest son, who is a very adventuresome young man, costume designer, doing all kinds of crazy stuff now. But when I read all the poems, the Robert Frost A Boy's Will was his first book that he wrote. Inside the pillow is the entire book. And what I do, and this is the conceptual part, I like to read the poems, then I cut the lines of each line. Then I fold it up in little pieces and stuff it in. Like a ship in a bottle, only with words. And Robert Frost is a poet that some people think, well, he rhymed and he did all this. But his work was so many levels, just like art. A really good piece of art, you identify it, you say, oh, that's an apple. But there are more than one ways to view an apple, right? It's used to when I'd have a class, I'd say, I'm going to give you a word and tell me what you see. And I said apple. And the first year that people started telling me about their Mac, I went, uh-oh, I'm losing it here, folks. Because they were seeing another form. This is a close-up of it. This is a little crochet that I found, and then I built it into a pillow. This is a poem by Pablo Neruda, and it's a love poem, and it was to my partner in life. And he gave me that piece of lace from Venice. So it's, don't give me anything. I'm going to use it, and I'm going to ruin it, This pillow here, and I love this one, is this is from Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, and I put the last line on the wall because it is about what it is to be in a family and what it is to be a parent. And the last line, can you all read it? Can you all see it? He turned out the light and went into Jim's room. He would be there all night, and he would be there when Jim waked. See, it always bothered me, that word. It should be a different way of saying that. Waked up in the morning. But maybe she did it because it's kind of like, if you have a piece of paper and it's not quite straight, and you straighten it, and then you liked it better when it wasn't quite straight. That's what waked is. It's not quite there, It makes you think about it, right? Okay, inside the pillow for Miss Harper Lee was her book. I shredded the book as I read the book. This is a book I read to my children. They read it back to me. My son, who's in his 30s now, he found an original copy, and he gave it to me for Christmas, and I almost fell apart because it's a beautiful book. If you haven't read it, you probably have. But this is the pillow, and it was a silk pillow, and on the bottom, which you can't see, was a bird, and you unscrewed the bird, and that's how I got all the words in, like the ship in the bottle again. This piece here is when I was starting to draw in what I call, I'm trying to draw with bronze. I'm trying to make lines all the time. And because I work with Harry Gefford, who's a supreme person in casting and also a wonderful artist, he shows at Chris Worley. This piece right here was what I thought was the beginning of really understanding that bronze didn't have to be like the Henry Moore and the big large thing and all this kind of stuff. I have a different voice because I see it differently. I don't have to do the massive form. I want it to be linear. I want it to be delicate. I want it to speak to you about movement and line and shadow. And this piece is called Knowing. And you can take knowing any way you want. But I felt like I finally understood how to work with bronze when I did this piece. And you can see it. It was the beginning of a series of nesty pieces that I did. This is a show I did out in California, John Bergruen Gallery in California. And you're going to see the tablecloth again. And the daisies that are on the little poster that advertised me is on there, on that wall right there. And that, I hope I've got a close-up of that. And this kind, I like to show you installation shots. You know, it gives you a sense of the space I want around things. This piece here is The Secret Sits in the Middle and Knows. And that is another Robert Frost poem. It's only 2 lines. But I went to hear a lecture at the Fort Worth Modern, it was Richard Tuttle, and he's one of my favorite artists. If you don't know Richard Tuttle, you need to look him up because he is I feel like he's the Duchamp of our generation. He's amazing. He does all this kind of stuff that he gathers around, and you know that he has made arrangement on top of arrangement, like, what in the heck is that? You know, and see, we got this right here. He would do this, and he might do this, and, you know, make all that stuff happen. You know what I'm saying. He would put all that together. Well, when I saw that poem, The Secret Sits in the Middle and Knows, I went, that is a beautiful title. And then I went to his lecture, and he was talking about where do you find art? And he said, art is not in the beginning, and it's definitely not at the end. Art is in the middle. And then I understood that Frost understood that too. And now I think I got it a little bit. I'm not totally there, but I got it a little. Does that make sense? Here we go. Then I do sometimes I do fun things. These are my little wee jocks. These are my little, a wonderful artist named Helen Altman gave me this crochet. And then I just went crazy and made prints of it. And then I made a bronze of it. And what I do is after I make the print, there ink's all over it. It's nice and thick, and then I put wax in it, and then I cut it up into small pieces, and then I sprue it up. And do you know what spruing up is? Okay, sprue it up, and then we dip it into what we call a ceramic shell or investment. Then we take that, we burn it out, we pour the bronze in. When we take it back, I'm just saying, bronze is not an easy thing to do. You've got to really want to. And this is a piece that was collected by a group of a husband and wife team from New York and I'm really proud that they got this. They're the Tishes, which is, they sponsor the Whitney and all that kind of stuff. And I was so excited that they bought one of my pieces, because that made, and this is a different patina I was trying of all white on white. And as James said, getting a photograph of this was so hard. And then this is another rose, and see, I keep trying different things. I say, you step on it and push it in the ground until you just can't get anything else out of it. That's what artists do. When a student once said to me, he said, I don't know when I'm done, and I said, when you hate it. But if you still see something you could fix, you're not done. And so this right here is me painting with the bronze again, and this is, I went to London and saw the Victoria and Albert Museum, and this is outside of this Albert Hall. There was this wonderful, huge statue of Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert. Prince Albert in a can, everybody, But anyhow, he was on this great big podium, and she loved her man. And I just got so excited. She made him all gold. Well, the whole bottom of this podium. Do you ever get to see it? I mean, everybody's running around going to the music. Look at this piece of sculpture. But anyhow, I decided to make a piece, and this is the wedding piece. There are rings on that, and Victoria is the black rose, and he is the golden rose. And this is the first time I ever used gold leaf. This is the title piece for the show at John Berggruen, and it was called The Grand Anonymous. And oftentimes, as artists, we do feel anonymous. But as sometimes when you're just, making something, oftentimes women would, in the early part of our century, women made things to beautify their home. They didn't just do it to keep their hands busy. They did it to give as gifts, to share, to feel a connection within a community. And so when I found this piece, I went kind of nutty over it because I just liked how square. It reminded me of an Agnes Martin painting. I then decided I wanted to make it more dimensional, and so I printed it, then I drew on it, then I cut all those little chads. I call it my chad art, like Florida. Well, but there's like thousands of cuts, right? Everybody got it? And what happens is when you walk, it moves. Now, I love to take 3D objects and make them flat, and then I like to take flat objects and make them look 3D. It's like part of the game is to do magic. Let's make magic, Christopher Wilmarth, who was a wonderful artist, who did a lot of glass and transparent art, and you should look him up. He's no longer with us, but he was a great artist. And what he talked about all the time, that finding art and finding the beauty of the art is if you can't find the magic, then it's not art. There's got to be that little place that people are looking up underneath it or doing this in it. This is a piece that I tried, I'll try a different kind of ink. And this is Roses for Yves Klein, who did all the blues. You'll probably know about him. And he's one of my artists that I love. I have a whole group. This is a show, and you see the secret sits in the middle. This is at Talley Dunn's gallery. And so I oftentimes take it from one space to the other. And every time I take something to a new space, it becomes a new piece. When people say, I don't want to use that again, I go, why not? It's not going to be the same. The same audience, it's all going to be different. And this is a piece that was called Alice, the Poet, and the Grasslands. And it is about frost, and there's Alice in the back there. And this is where I did a series of, this is a ballerina skirt, the long ballerina skirt, again, that a friend gave me. And it's 4 by 8 feet, it's really big, and I went in there and drew all over it. You might say, that woman needs to relax, right? But for me, drawing and doing all that is great. This is Alice. This is what Alice was. And she was all full with roses. And when I started putting it up at the gallery, it didn't work. It was like too many roses. I didn't like it. And I just thought, I'm going to stop right here. And just making that quick gesture, it became a place of why are the roses doing that? It was just like this whole thing. And the roses are black. And this is a 50s woman. And then at the same show, this was one of my first real, what I call the little girl things. And this is This is from a poem, and it's the young girl shines brightly to herself. And this was about my granddaughter. My granddaughter is now 10, and she was, and still is to me, the most accomplished young lady. You know, she's amazing. And this was about her and how, you know, and her great-great-grandmother gave me this dress. And so it's all about the connection of the story. These are the grass lines. These are Texas blue stem grass that I love. And I go out in the fields and get chiggers all over me and all kinds of stuff. And I grab this wild, rough grass, and then I bring it back into the print studio and ink it up, each grass individually, lay it down, print, lay it down, and go back and draw. And so it's a combination. And I want it to feel as if it's, you know, almost on fire. I want it to bloom up, you know. This is a photo drawing that I did from a tree that was in Scotland. I call this Edinburgh. And it was this beautiful, crazy pine tree. I'd never seen anything like it because they have a lot of water and they have a lot of mist. And their plants are, the trees are like, trees are as big as this room. You know, it's just amazing. And I took this picture of this one kind of funny pine tree, and then again, taking it to my friend at Exford, and he did a ghost image. I thought, you know, he gets so tickled because I say, I do not want it to be in focus. I don't want it clear. Don't, you know, I just want you to make a bad photograph, which is really hard for him. But then I take it and do what I call nursing it back to health. Then, you know, I do things with flower forms. I do, you know, daisies and different things. These are printed, and then I'd go back in and draw in color, draw it back on top of them. And I like doing these flowers. You know, it's just, it's kind of meditative. This is a show that's in Dallas right now. And this is a show, this is a piece called Little Bear. And Little Bear is a wonderful book that I read to my kids when they were little. And it's, again, it's about the idea of nurturing. And I made the tree first, over here, in my little tree. And this is a bonsai tree that I found. Now, I didn't kill the tree, because you don't want to kill a bonsai. They're like hundreds of years old. But it was a dead one. And so they gave it to me. And so then I took it apart, and you know, each little branch has to be removed, and then I put it all back together again. The little bear I had to do, I found the bear, it came from Sweden, and it had been a wooden carved bear that somebody had made a ceramic cast of it. Then I took that because it was like the perfect bear. I'd been looking for months for the perfect bear. And I got the bear. Then I took a rubber mold of that bear, and then I made a rubber mold of the tree limb. And you know, it's like all this process, but yet, you know, don't you like that bear? I mean, he's just sitting there going, I don't know if I want to get up in the tree or not get up in the tree. But there's a story about him climbing a tree, jumping off the tree, and thinking he's on the moon. So, and that always reminded me of my kids. There's a close-up of the bear. The patina on it is actual, what we call traditional patina. It was all done with a torch, and you can see the bottom is a kind of brownish color that I did with a chemical called ferric nitrate, which is the same ferric we used in etching. Got it? And so, you know, I've been in chemicals all my life, so if I have any brain cells left, it's going to be, no, I'm only kidding. But you all are much better off today. They use a lot more protection. This right here is one of the prints that is in that show, and this is a jacket that my son created for Les Mis, and then he did it. Yes. Okay. I'm going to go fast. This is the wonder trees. Go see my wonder trees. Again, these are Jerusalem black olive trees. They were not alive. I took dead ones. In fact, the guy made me pay for the dead ones because I found them in the back side. He said, well, you got to buy them. And I went, oh, God, $5. But then I had to, it's a Jerusalem thorn. This is the young dancer. And this is a netting and that. I think I'm just about done. This is a piece by, this is very tiny. The shoes were given to me by a friend of mine that her father had given her as toy shoes. The shoes are about 3 inches long. They look bigger, but I made a little twisting thing so you could see the back of the shoe. You can actually turn the shoe. They're hanging on a grapevine. And it's based from a line that Robert Frost did when he was a young man. He hated to give lectures, and I'm going to end with this. He hated to give lectures, and what he would do was he'd put stones in his shoes so that the stones would hurt him, so he didn't have to worry about you guys. Do you see that engagement? Okay. And later on, he got really good at the lectures. And he stopped putting the stones in his shoes. And this is called Without Stones in Your Shoes. Thank you.